you were doing something called Make a Change World.
Every week we would be cleaning a different beach around the island.
Gary Bencheghib, welcome to Double Espresso Studios and here to Significant Podcasts by the Yak down here in Leghorn. So you kind of lost your way because obviously you came just from somewhere really quite out there. I mean, for 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. Where were you?
Yeah, so at 7 a.m. I was launching one of our new emergency cleanups over in Sabah in Gianyar.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like chest level high in the river. Pretty disgusting. There's about this dead, Tukad Mati, this irrigation channel that's completely clogged with plastic, about 1 meter layers of it. So we're just trying to unclog it before it goes out into Sabah, into Karamas, one of the best surf spots here on Bali.
Commune. I hope they're going to be helping you. Shout out to Commune. Help out. And okay, but that's been part of your journey for quite a long time, because when I first met you, you were doing something called Make a Change World. So if you can, before you did Sungai Watch, so if you could just kind of take us back a little bit to what was the beginning of the Make a Change World and what that was, what grounded you to then move on to Sungai Watch. Yeah, I suppose that would be kind of how I would say it.
Definitely. So I grew up in Bali, been here for the last 18 years since I was 9 years old. And at 14 years old, I was sort of sick and tired of seeing the beaches, our rivers clogged in plastic. So with my brother Sam and my sister Kelly, we started Make a Change Bali, which was like a student-led organization to clean Bali up. Every week we would be cleaning a different beach around the island, and it sort of became a community movement. But very quickly we realized that cleaning the beach was nowhere to be the solution, and we really had to focus on education. So we started to I went to film school in New York to study filmmaking, and then I brought the power of filmmaking as my weapon to bring plastic pollution to front page news. Coming up with cool concepts like going down some of the world's most polluted rivers.
I saw that one, the Citarum River. I think even the Indonesians were really surprised about how polluted it was. And I think obviously the people that live on the banks of that river just get used to it. They just get used to it. They don't really have a voice to a significant representative of the government to maybe make some complaints. But I think you guys, you did, that's an amazing trip, right? So you built 2 kayaks.
From plastic bottles.
So
floating on 300 plastic bottles in one kayak. And for 2 weeks, we went down this extremely polluted river. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. It was like the first time ever that I wore a mask, thinking that it would protect me from the toxic chemicals of this river.
And it didn't, I'm sure.
I was wearing a rain jacket. Right. To be waterproof, thinking that,
a little splash,
yeah,
kind of roll off the sleeve, right?
We were completely not prepared. After that, I got really, really sick for a couple months. My immunity completely went down, but, 25 million people live along this river. And as you just mentioned, people have no sort of awareness of how bad the toxic chemicals are. On the Citarum, it's not all plastic. It's all really, fast fashion companies. Bandung is known to be, one of the biggest fast fashion hubs around Southeast Asia. And so you have, all of the sewage waste, all of the factory waste.
So a lot of dyes and
a lot of dyes.
A lot of dyes,
so
which is hugely toxic.
One day the river will turn red, another day it'll turn blue.
And you've got the kids jumping in and out.
Exactly.
Fishing in there, thinking nothing's wrong, right?
Very, very little fish species because of the toxic.
So did you get skin rashes and things like that? Because I saw you kind of quite heavily paddling.
It was literally just the bottles. There were these plastic bottles that were our barrier between us and this toxic goo. Right. So we got quite itchy, but I think just breathing these toxic fumes for a while, that's what got us sick. But, right. That trip changed our life forever. We really experienced, I think, probably the worst of destruction of our planet. To see a river that was once pristine, as many rivers still are around Bali and Indonesia. This river, there was no hope. We published some videos on social media, and then overnight, the videos went viral. gaining the attention of Jokowi, the president of Indonesia, who then deployed 7,000 military troops to clean the river.
Right. So I mean that's quite a big viral. Because some things go viral and nothing much happens, but I mean viral and immediate action was taken. So within that interim, that was still for Make a Change World.
Exactly. That was like sort of our umbrella organization to do expeditions, videos, and really speak about plastic pollution from an educational and media perspective. And then after experiencing the cheetah room, where you literally experience the worst of mankind, you're like, what can I do on a daily basis to actually be part of the solution? And so that's when we started to play around with, different barriers.
For the Sungai Watch, the River Watch, which is, Sungai is obviously
River
Indonesian. Yes, correct.
And that sort of organically grew in the midst of COVID when things were closed down, beaches were closed down. We started doing community cleanups every said Friday. And then that movement grew. We had started with one barrier. Now we're at 150 barriers across Bali, 20 in Java. We employ 85 people here in Bali every day working with us to clean rivers. And we're about...
So they go to the barrier in the morning, pick up all the rubbish, and then do they separate it on site, and then you pick it up? I mean, because a lot of people say, yeah, everyone just picks up this rubbish, but then what do they do with it? And it's like, some people really think that, why would you pick it up to then just put it somewhere back that it could get back to where you just picked it up from, right? And I find a lot of people seem to be quite unaware of, for example, the back end of Sungai Watch.
Yes.
So if you could just tell us a little bit more about the actual, like the kind of day-to-day, or even one of the bigger cleanups that you do, how do you organize that? Because that's pretty monumental.
I think, when we started cleaning up and we had our first ever barrier, I was still bringing the trash, was by myself, bringing it to my parents' house in the garage, sorting it.
Right.
At the moment, in terms of off-takers, we only knew Eco Bali. But very quickly, Paola told us, your trash is a little bit dirty from the river, to be honest. Like, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to sell it. And very quickly, we realized that if we wanted to have a cleanup organization, we needed to have the entire infrastructure, the back end, to actually deal with this material. And if we're able to upcycle river plastic, which is ultimately the worst type of plastics out there, and give it a second life, then we can show that pretty much anything's possible in using wasted resource and giving it a second life or value. So we have 5 facilities across Bali. There's sorting hubs that we operate. So every day the trash gets picked up from barriers. We do a lot of emergency cleanups where, it can be mangroves that are suffocating in plastic, this river in Sabah, all around the island.
Which isn't really a river, because it's kind of more like a creek, because it's quite deep. You said there's almost 6 meters or 10 meters from the river bank to the where the problems are.
Yeah,
and the problems all the way up and down the walls, right? Because obviously the plastic it just gets caught by whatever trees and vegetation, right?
Here in this case, it's been probably the accumulation of decades of trash being dumped there. People oftentimes, because we have such a lack of infrastructure of waste management here on the island, people have the tendency of using illegal tepeas or open dumping by a river. As soon as rain comes, it'll just go into the creek. And
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
That's kind of the sadness, isn't it? Because we know it's not like that, yeah.
And unfortunately, that's going on all throughout Indonesia. We only recycle 4% of the trash here nationwide. Globally, we recycle 8%. And Indonesia is the second biggest polluter to plastics in the world after China. We're obviously the biggest archipelago in the world. But how do we properly stop the fact that, every day, every second, a garbage truck, worth of plastic pollution enters our ocean? And I think, before we can actually set up massive infrastructure, there's a lot of disaster relief that needs to take place. And whilst doing the disaster relief effort, if we can learn about how to properly upcycle plastic bags that have no value into a 1x1 meter sheet, or, turn it into a table, tell a story, but also start to collect data on who the biggest polluters are.
Right.
And
we know who they are, don't we?
So, yeah.
Anyway, without pointing fingers, with your Sungai Watch and with the fact that you now have your 5, what we call repurposing, or would you call them repurposing hubs?
So we have 4 sorting hubs or sorting stations, and then we have one main station where we do all the pressing, the washing, the treatments.
Right, and you're repurposing plastic.
Exactly.
So you've just done something really exciting. I just popped in the other day to a electric scooter showroom called New Electric scooters, I think, on
Exactly.
Damlingan in
Damlingan.
Sanaa. So shout out to you guys, Azarif, hi. And you've done some really impressive sheets that they're using as countertops and parts of the back of the studio, the showroom, and that's all from your repurposed plastic. And to me, it looked like granite. I was really impressed with the green one. I mean, it almost looked like from far away it could have been like a green granite. So that was really impressive. How much are you able to manufacture that, and can we buy some, or how can we all get involved in that way?
Yes, definitely. So that was a really cool collaboration that we just launched last Friday. So shout out to New. Thank you so much for collaborating with us. But beyond that, right now we're really focusing on R&Ding all the low value plastics, turning it into raw material that we can then turn into a product. So we've done a couple collaborations with Still Studios where we made a really cool shower. New is one of our only collaborators. We're trying to not sell sheets, but really come up with our own catalog of products that we'll be launching in about 2-3 months, which we're really excited about. Upcycling river waste on its way to the ocean, polluting Bali's rivers, choking rice fields, and turning into valuable products that can be, long-term and really tell a story to move away from, potential, deforestation like wood, but also ultimately, have a long-lasting story and making sure that that plastic is used for good.
Right. So I think that's super exciting. You said with your own designs. So obviously you're going to collaborate with people like, I don't know, Robberies have just done something. I think Robberies did an interesting chair with the whole Potato Head group, and Peggy Goo. I think there's some people doing some amazing stuff. I do think that, for example, when I saw in you was really interesting, is that to collaborate with interior designers. Yes, definitely to have your own, your own website and selling your own things. But I mean, to really move interior designers from, let's say, the kitchen island or the bar island, and just to do that 100% with your, repurposed plastic, I think would be really interesting, especially Bali, because, one can reach out to all these interior designers because they're all here, right? We can really, really kind of like pull them in and really introduce them to some of your products. So I think that would be great. So moving on from Sungai, you now have 100 barriers in Bali and 20 in Java?
150.
So how can people get involved with, how could I help sponsor a barrier? Let's say, how would that happen?
So we have a lot of like individual sponsors that come in and sponsor. If you're a company, if you're an individual,
would you paint my name on the barrier?
So it's a sponsored barrier with your name on it.
Right.
So the cost of collection, the cost of upcycling is quite hefty. So the smallest barriers go for $2,500, and they're called our mini floaters. They're like for a little gut or a subak, and that will basically sponsor or collect 1,000 kilos. But bigger,
a year or a month?
A year.
A year, right? Okay.
Of plastic, and then that basically sponsors full operational costs for a year span. But then we have bigger barriers that go for a little bit more. And now we're really trying to.
One just by Cafe Del Mar, that one, right? The one that, near that really big river. That one, so something like that. That's what, 15 meters or something like that?
That's 20 meters.
20 meters.
Our biggest barrier is 40 meters wide.
Wow.
But yeah, ultimately, we should start getting stop people from throwing their trash in rivers. That's all it's about. I think the river barriers have been a great way to disaster relief and get people thinking that
this
back
is how much we're really
couple
talking
years
the river, right?
A couple years ago, when you'd be in Kuta Beach and you'd ask the local boy and you'd be like, where does this trash come from? He'll point to the next island.
Java, always from Java.
Rivers are, I think, the perfect connection between life on land and the ocean. And here, at the exit of every banjar, at the exit of every desa, we can collect data in real time to know where does this trash come from which desa, to then properly enforce waste management at that village level. And that's, working upstream. That's all it's about. Now that we've actually had a couple barriers in Tabanan that have been super efficient, that we've had to move because it's almost like the village has been cleaned, and they're way more aware. And that's like the most rewarding thing. Here in Denpasar, not so far away, we've had a river for 7 months, cleaning it up every day. Fish have come back. And I think that this is, the stories that motivate us, that change can happen, and that we need to just
keep going.
And
so I was going to say,
and multiply.
Don't you sometimes just get, just like cute? You go around cleaning mangroves, and then there's another mangrove that's filthy, and there's another one. How do you deal with the disheartening part of your job?
I think it's focusing on like the micro wins, every day, before, after photo, knowing that we've had some impact, knowing that the plastic is not going to end up in a landfill or whatnot, that we can actually upcycle it now with some of the processes that we've created. But really like still taking the time to celebrate, sometimes
It does get depressing, I'm sure.
it does. So we try to really, celebrate with the team whenever we can, properly. And then, we're back on the job to make sure that. But now we're at the stage where, we've placed 150 barriers around Bali. What's next for us? Really looking at 1,000 barriers across Indonesia, with a big push in Java. Java has 90 of the world's most polluted rivers. Obviously, 150 million people live in Java, the most densely island in the world. So we really want to bring our project, Bali was a cute island, obviously tourist hub.
Yeah, it's a great one to stand with, like a pilot project, right? To then be able to expand and grow. With, for example, people being able to help and donate to your foundation, how does that happen? Because you say you could have some people being able to sponsor their own Sungai watch moment. But what about people that maybe don't have that kind of money, or maybe don't have the company? How can they get involved? How can the smaller person get involved?
So we have like a kilo rate, which is at about $1.50, that helps us, remove a kilo from the mangrove and completely treat it, collect it, and make sure it gets upcycled properly. And that, whether you want to sponsor 100 kilos, or you can
Great
use
Christmas presents and birthday presents. Guys, I've just cleaned 5 kilos of trash from a river.
Or you can monthly subscribe to Removing Kilos with us as well on our website.
And how do we do that? What website is it?
So this is sungaiwatch.com or sungai.watch.
Right, so SUNGAI dot
watch.
Okay, .org, is it?
Just .watch.
.watch. Oh, it's just straight .watch, right? So River Watch. Beautiful. That's fantastic. Now, I did read something the other day about an app that you might be building, which I thought, should have happened with Gojek, shouldn't it? Like a few years ago. But that you are creating an app so whereby I'm driving around Bali and I see somebody using this place as a illegal dump site. I can tag it with my locator and send you the news, or how can that happen?
So at the moment it's a WhatsApp number, but it can also be sent, via all of our social media channels. We're trying to collect as many data points of open dumps around the island. If we're to move, towards a decentralized network, the big landfill in Bali, Suwung, next to Serangan, is shutting down. And that means that ultimately there's going to be more open dumps, more trash in rivers, which we ultimately want to prevent. That's going to mean like a terrible rainy season with beaches, again, to the brink of plastic. So we want to make...
definitely no tourists, because by that time I think everyone would have said, come on guys, sort it out, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's
so
very bad.
It's as easy as taking a photo of like an open dump, sending the GPS coordinate, and then we'll send one of our teams to clean it. If it's in South Bali, we can do it, and then if it's a little bit further out, that's where we send a set team to travel for a couple of days and try to clean up as many as possible. But the ultimate vision is that we can move away from these open dumps. Right now we're trying to clean a full open dump and plant a community garden on top of it, to basically change the perspective that open dumping should be completely illegal. It's a little bit, we would love to start a petition as well, but it's not the right time with G20 around the corner. Right. But ultimately, we really need to stop open dumping and really put infrastructure in place to make sure
I think that's basically fining, right? This is a fining system. I think it works in Singapore very well. I think it works in England. None of this, none of that. However bad they are at the back, because I know that England's actually quite bad in their exporting their plastic to get recycled and not sorting it very well, and then it getting dumped and banned or whatever. But starting. How would you work forward after G20?
Just back to your point, actually Desa Legian is doing an amazing job at putting fines on people that throw in rivers. Okay. They've already collected 22 million in fines, and using that for their own waste management program. So it can be successful here. Moving out of G20, I think that everybody, unfortunately, is taking shortcuts to make sure that Bali looks good, that Bali is the island of gods, and not
putting on some nail varnish and some fake eyelashes and hoping that's gonna work.
What is really the long-term solution? And that's some of the addresses that we always have with government. We want something that's sustainable for this island to thrive for generations to come. And, that's really what we're going to keep on pushing beyond G20, looking for the long-term waste solution. No open dumping, decentralized network of these sorting hubs everywhere at the village model, and then really creating a marketplace for, these little hubs
products and marketplace, perfect.
Probably resell. And that's, I think, where, we need everybody on this fight.
Right, exactly.
We need the designers, we need the scientists, we need, the PR firms, we need hotels. Not a single Sungai watch is going to beat this. Like, this is where everybody needs to come
There
together.
definitely has to come like a massive community of local international people. And I do think if the next door Banjar heard that the Banjar of Legian made 22 million, they might suddenly kick in. So it would be a very good probably story and video to do a little bit of that in Indonesian, because I know you speak great Indonesian, to literally just get the Legian Banjar to talk about it, and then we just put it on, we can put it on the various the various Instagram things, and I think they'd go, oh, we could do it too. And I do think that, because it is that very much that ripple effect of the way Indonesians communicate.
It's all about the positive stories, to inspire people how to go about it, versus whether it's that river with fish coming back or Desa Legian finding people.
Getting 22 million from finding people and getting them to pretty up their Banjar. And I think it's a pride thing as well, becoming more proud. And if then there could be the cleanest river prize.
Exactly, yeah.
I think that would be, whoever the villages are up and down there, and they get something rather substantial. In England we used to have the best railway prize or something. And we could do something like the best river prize would be great for Indonesia.
There we go.
So thank you so much, Gary. Everyone watch out for Gary. He's doing so much on cleaning the rivers and trying to stop the disaster happen before it gets to the sea. So please do subscribe to Sungai Watch and Instagram and Facebook, and do keep out and do donate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gary, thank you.